Well, hello and welcome to the Bible with Briscoe. I'm your narrator, Shenandoah Briscoe, and we are going to get through this Bible in 1 year. This is episode 5, Genesis 13 through 15, and Matthew 5, 1 through 6. Okay, here we go. Now then, let's start off with a prayer. Father, I just ask that you bless my tongue with no stumbling through this. I'd rather be able for the people who are following it to be able to understand that what we're saying, what you're saying in your book, so that it's understandable and agreeable to their ears. In Jesus' mighty name, amen. Abraham and Lot separate. 13. Genesis 13. So Abraham went up from the valley of Egypt to Negev with his wife and everything he had, and Lot with him. Abraham had become very wealthy in livestock and silver and gold. From the Negev he went forth place to place until he came to Bethel, to the place between Bethel and Ai, where his tent had been earlier, and where he had first built an altar. There Abram called on the name of the Lord. Now Lot, who was moving about with Abram, also had flocks and herds and tents, but the land could not support them while they stayed together, for their possessions were so great that they were not able to stay together, and quarreling arose between Abram's herders and Lot's. And the Canaanites and Perizzites were also living in the land at that time. So Abram said to Lot, let's not have any quarreling between you and I, because, or between your herders and mine, for we are close relatives. Has not Is not the whole land before you? Let's part company. If you go to the left, I'll go to the right. If you go to the right, I'll go to the left. Lot looked around and saw that the whole plain of the Jordan toward Zorah was well watered, like the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt. This was before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. So Lot chose for himself the whole plain of the Jordan, and set out toward the east. The two men parted company. Abram lived in the land of the Canaan, while Lot lived among the cities of the plain, and pitched his tent near Sodom. Now the people of Sodom were wicked and were sinning greatly against the Lord. The Lord said to Abraham after Lot had parted from him, look around from where you are, to the north and south, to the east and west. All the land that you see I will give you, and your offspring. Forever I will make your offspring like the dust of the earth, so that if anyone could count the dust, then your offspring could be counted. Go walk through the length and breadth of the land, for I am giving it to you. So Abraham went to live near the great trees of Mamre at Hebron, where he pitched his tents. There he built an altar to the Lord. 14. At the time when Amraphel was king of Shinar, Arioch king of Elsar, Kedorlaomer king of Elam, and Tidal king of Goyim. These kings went to war against Berer king of Sodom, Brish king of Gomorrah, Shinab king of Admah, and Shembar king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, that is Zor. All of these later kings joined forces in the valley of Siddim. that is the Dead Sea Valley. Now, for 12 years, they had been subject to Chedorlaomer, but in the 13th year, they rebelled. In the 14th year, Chedorlaomer and the kings allied with him went out and defeated the Raphites in Ashtaroth, Carnium, and the Zudites in Ham, the Emites in Sheva, Kirtathum, and Horites in the hill country of Seir, and for as far as El Purin, near the desert. Then they turned back and went to En Misfat. This is Kadesh. And they conquered the whole territory of Amalekites, as well as the Amorites who were living in Hezron Tamar. Now the king of Sodom, the king of Gomorrah, the king of Sodom and the king of Gomorrah, the king of Admah, the king of Zebulun, and the king of Bela, that is Zor, marched out and drew upon their battle lines in the valley of Siddim against Chedorlaomer, king of Elmer, Tidal king, Tidal king of Goyim, April king of Shinar, and Arioch king of Elasar. 4 kings against 5. Now the valley of Siddim was full of tar pits, and when the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled, some of the men fell into them, and the rest fled into the hills. The 4 kings seized all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah, and all their food. Then they went away. They also carried off Abram's nephew Lot and his possessions, since he was living in Sodom. A man who had escaped came and reported this to Abram the Hebrew. I don't know what happened there, but I don't like it. Oh, great. I lost myself. Go back. Okay, great. Sorry, friends. We got lost for a second. Now a man had escaped and came and reported to Abram the Hebrew. Now Abram was living near the great trees of Mamre and Amorite, a brother of Eshcol and Aner, all of whom were allied with Abraham. When Abram heard that his relative had been taken captive, he called out the 318 trained men born in his household and went in pursuit as far as Dan. During the night, Abram divided his men to attack them, and he routed them, pursuing them as far as Hobah, north of Damascus. He recovered all the goods and brought back his relative Lot and his possessions, together with the women and the other people. After Abram returned from defeating Chedorlaomer and the kings allied with him, the kings of Sodom came out to meet him in the valley of Sheav, that is the King's Valley. Then Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was priest of God Most High, and blessed Abram, saying, Blessed be Abraham, who by God's most high, cre- creator of the heavens and the earth, and praise be to God most high, who delivered your enemies into your hand. Then Abram gave him a tenth of everything. The king of Sodom said to Abram, give me the people and keep the goods for yourself. But Abram said to the king of Sodom, with raised hand, I have sworn an oath to the Lord God Most High, creator of heaven and earth, that I will accept nothing belonging to you, not even a thread or a strap of a sandal, so that you will not be able to say, I made Abram rich. I will accept nothing but what my men have eaten, and the share that belongs to the men who went with me, to Anar, Eshcol, and Murmur. Let them have their shares. After this, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision. Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield, your very great reward. But Abram said, Sovereign Lord, what can you give me, since I remain childless, and one will inherit and the one who will inherit my estate is Eliezer of Damascus. And Abram said, you have given me no children, so a servant of my household will be my heir. Then the word of the Lord came to him, this man will not be your heir, but a son who is your own flesh and blood will be your heir. He took him outside and said, look up at the sky and count the stars, if you indeed can count them. Then he said to him, so shall your offspring be. Abram believed the Lord, and he credited it to him as righteousness. He also said to him, I am the Lord who brought you out of Ur of the Chaldeans, to give you this land to take possession of it. But Abram said, Sovereign Lord, how can I know that I will gain possession of it? So the Lord said to him, bring me a heifer, a goat, a ram, each 3 years old, along with a dove and a young pigeon. Abram brought all these to him, cut them into two, and arranged the halves opposite each other. The birds, however, he did not cut in half. The birds of prey came down on the carcasses, but Abram drove them away. As the sun was setting, Abram fell into a deep sleep, and a thick, dreadful darkness came over him. Then the Lord said to him, know for certain that for 400 years your descendants will be strangers in a country not their own, and they will be enslaved and mistreated there. But I will punish the nation that they serve as slaves, and afterward they will come out with great possessions. And you, however, will go to your ancestors in peace and be buried at a good old age. In the 4th generation your descendants will come back here, for the sin of the Amorites has not yet reached its full measure. When the sun had set and darkness had fallen, a smoking fire pot with a blazing torch appeared and passed between the pieces. On that day the Lord made a covenant with Abram and said, to your descendants I give this land from the Wadi of Egypt to the great river the Euphrates, the land of the Canaanites, Kenizzites, Kadmonites, Hittites, Perizzites, Rephites, Armatites, Canaanites, Girgashites, and Jebusites. Okay, that was Genesis 13 through 15. Now we're going to proceed on to Matthew 5, 1 through 26. Now, when Jesus saw the crowds, he went up on the mountainside and sat down. His disciples came to him and he began to teach them the Beatitudes. The Beatitudes. He said, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the more merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who persecuted because of righteousness, who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, your light shines before others, that they must see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Do not think that I have came to abolish the law of the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth disappear, not the smallest letter, not the least stroke of a pen will by any means disappear from the law until everything is accomplished. Therefore, anyone who sets aside one of the least of these commands and teaches others accordingly will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever practices and teaches these commands will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I tell you that unless your righteousness surpasses that of the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, you will certainly not enter the kingdom of heaven. You have heard that it was said to people long ago, "You shall not murder, and anyone who murders will be subject to judgment." But I tell you that anyone who is angry with a brother or sister will be subject to judgment. Again, anyone who says to a brother or sister, "Reka," is answerable to the court, and anyone who says, "You fool," will be in danger of the fire of hell. Therefore, if you are offering your gift at the altar and there remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First go and reconcile to them, and then come and offer your gift. Settle matters quickly with your adversary who is taking you to court. Do it while you are still together on the way, or your adversary may hand you over to the judge, and the judge may hand you over to the officer, and you may be thrown into prison. Truly I tell you, you will not get out until you have paid the last penny. And there you have it, Matthew 5, 1 through 26. Okay, that concludes the Bible with Briscoe today. And so, I'm hoping that you're being able to follow along with ease because, well, I know that I'm stumbling over some of the words, and I I read through it prior to, but it doesn't make it any easier. Some I look up a lot of the words, uh, but by the time I get back to them again, I have misspoke the pronunciation again. So anyway, bear with. We will be getting better at this as we go along, I swear. In Jesus' mighty name, I say we are going to be blessed. Come back and see me tomorrow because, well, I'll be here and I hope that you are too. Goodbye.